Message that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. I'm proud to introduce Mr. Rocky Thomas.
I believe that personal experiences have the ability to transform lives. This is the power of story. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. Once upon a time, no, I'm just kidding, don't start like that. I was born to a white mother and to a black father. But at 2 years old, my mother took me away from my father. I would not see him again until I was 18. At 5 years old, my mother married my stepfather, a white man who had a white daughter. I grew up in basically a predominantly white community. And at first, the racial distinction really didn't mean that much to me. But over time, it became the source of a great sense of alienation and confusion. I wrote a poem that kind of describes this reality. It's called Gray Area. I grew up with a white mother and with a white stepfather, but I was black. And at the door where my friends' parents used to make me stand, I was black. And on the floor where my friends assumed I could dance, I was black. See, when the girls thought my hair was peculiar, or my coaches thought my athleticism was overly familiar, or in the car when my friends replaced Nirvana or Pearl Jam with Biggie or Tupac, I was black. Oh, and I was for sure black every time I got in trouble. But now see, I was white when I spoke too proper. When I dared to believe that I could succeed, go to college, get those A's and those B's, or even when I dated women who resembled my mother. See, I was white when I preferred to listen to Metallica or Creed, or when I realized I couldn't dance because this ain't dancing. See, when people seen my family, I was white. And every time people saw my family, I was black. As you can see, part of my story is that I struggled with my identity, as well as with my father's absence, my parents' divorce at 15, and I had a set of progressively destructive behaviors. And eventually, 2 months after my 18th birthday, I committed a horrible crime. And 8 months later, I was in a maximum security prison with a life sentence. Yet, even then, I managed to make it worse. When out of fear, shame, and self-pity, I attempted to kill myself. Now, I made it through that time because of the love, the unconditional love of a mother. But it was at that time that I realized I needed to change. I wanted to change. I just didn't know how. So one day, a friend suggested that I attend a support group. I went reluctantly. I still recall the question that was asked: what are you most ashamed of in your life? And there was this one particular black gang member, and he began to tell his story. And he said, I'm most ashamed of the fact that I abandoned my family for my homies. I thought to myself, that's kind of deep. And then he leaned forward, and I could see the tears beginning to well up in his eyes. And he said, I left my children out there on the streets without their father. And he began to weep like a man that was broken. Norman's willingness to be vulnerable had challenged all of my misconceptions about what it was to be a black man and to just be a man in general. This reality made me realize that I no longer needed to live in the fear of what stereotypes and assumptions others may have had, that I could be free to develop my own identity, to figure out who I wanted to be. As I continued to hear the stories of others, men and women who came from various walks in life, I would continue to be transformed by the power of story. And this is why I can stand here today and tell you some of the more intimate details of my life. It's why I believe that there's nothing greater than just serving one another, finding a way to help. And finally, this is why I believe that you should all tell your story. I believe that you should tell what you can, when you can, however you can, because you never know. You may change somebody's life. Thank you.